Hi everyone, welcome to Film Look Up there number 33, covering most of the films I watched or rewatched during March and April this year. So yes, we are back once again, and here we are, another Film Look Up video, and very informal, of course. Laptop in front of me, just going through most of the films I've been watching, of course, and rewatching over these last few months. And yeah, I always have fun doing these videos, and it's great to get a variety of talking points, of course, and to simply log my thoughts, over any given months, and yeah, to hear your thoughts as well. That's always great in the comments. And yeah, as always, towards the end of the video will be the favourite first watches. This time, obviously, of March and April, and that'll be cool to do. Always like that, and yeah. Cool to hear your thoughts on that, and yeah, it'd be cool as well. You can leave your favourite first watches as well, in the comments, and what of the last few months. But yeah, whatever the case, it'd be great to discuss all this kind of stuff, and to celebrate cinema as always. So yeah, with all that said, let's get into the video. And the first film of March was Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Now, I did say, recently I was I wanted to see, When Nature Calls, the second film, and I saw that before, watching this again, and yeah, Pet Detective, the first film. I do enjoy this film, and I reviewed both of these films, over the last few months, and I did have a nice time, watching these again and reviewing them, and yeah, they're up on the channel if you want to check out my full thoughts. But Pet Detective, is a pretty solid, it's a decent, comedy, but I don't think it's one of the best kind of Jim Carrey films, and it's great character. Love Jim Carrey. In that one, but it's not quite the film that matches really. His energy and his great unique character. And I think the second film is just definitely an improvement on that. And I just enjoy that. Overall as a film, the tone, the wackiness of it, and just how kind of the locations are done and that kind of stuff. In that film. So yeah, but both of these films I do enjoy, and both of them I did review on the channel. So yeah, you can check out that. If you want my full thoughts on both of these films. And then we have Jan de Bont's Twister. Now this film, I did watch a lot as a kid, and I reviewed it as well on the channel, pretty recently. And I think that's a film that just is so nostalgic to me. I had so much kind of watches of this film, as a really young kid, less than kind of 10. I watched this quite a bit, and yeah, just have really good kind of nostalgic times with this one. And I think this is a really good film, and I think just the action in this, the energy, the buzz, and really loads of the performances in this, just so memorable, and I think the characters really make it. Philip Seymour Hoffman in this film, it's Dusty, he is just so great, and obviously Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt, it's just full of great cast here, Carrie Ells as well in there, and it's just a really thrilling film. And yeah, Twister, it's a film that I do really enjoy, and I love. For the most part, I do love this film, and just really cool to see this one again. And I hadn't seen it in many years, so that was really nice. And I did review that film as well. So there we go, Twister. Then we have some more rewatches of Mike Leigh films, and we have Happy Go Lucky, and that's a film that I do really like, and I think it's just a very uplifting film, very nice to see, and it's just a really human film this as well. And I think Sally Hawkins in this really good in this one. She just gives it a really unique performance, and I think it's just a really nice film to watch. And I'd only seen it once before, so it was cool to go back and see this one again. Yeah, we watched a few Mike Leighs. Naked as well, that's another one. I hadn't seen that for a couple of years, and yeah, seeing it again, it's definitely a one that has some really great moments, and I think it's definitely over a really good film, and I think it's definitely as well one of the best kind of in a sense endings to a Mike Leigh film. And yeah, it's just a really kind of well shot film as well. The visuals to this are really stunning, and I think David Fuellers as well. He is just great in this film, and it's really kind of memorable, out there character, and yeah, just a really human film again. And it was definitely really cool to see this one once again. And then we have Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and 2, and I think the first film is definitely one that I do really enjoy, and it's a solid film, and I think that's one that I did see as a kid. And the second one though, Cheaper by the Dozen 2, I think this is definitely the better film, and it's the one that I do much prefer to the first. It's even more enjoyable, and as much as I do really enjoy the first, the second one is just so enjoyable. And I think just seeing Steve Martin, of course, and Eugene Levy kind of facing it off as these two kind of heads of these families, it's just priceless stuff. And I think it's so funny, this, and the locations, and just the whole kind of tone of this one, especially the second film. I do really like, and I think I love different moments to this, and it's so much fun. And I think these films are really kind of, it's interesting to see. They're not weren't both of them really well received, especially the second film. But yeah, I always really have kind of thought on these films, fondly, and I think the second one especially, I saw that in school when I was really, really young, in primary school, and yeah, it's a film that I've seen a few times over the years. But yeah, it had been many, many years since I saw both of these films. It was so great to return to them once again, and yeah, obviously reviewed both of these films as well, so you can check out my reviews once again. Next up, of course, is Fast 5. Now this one, wow, Fast and Furious, of course, been going through these films, the franchise over the last few months, and having such a great time with these films, and I think Fast 5, though, this is the one that really changed it up, and I think just going from Fast 4 into Fast 5, it's just something else. I think the way obviously they start to focus on heist films, and as well, spy films in there, gradually, and I think it's so great to see this. And obviously Fast 5 is one that I was so hyped to see. I've been hearing about this so much, and it just exceeded my expectations. What a film, and still kind of thinking on the buzz of that film, and just the way it was made, and how got this buzz of all these characters in this film, and it's so great. And I did review that film recently, and as well started reviewing the films again on the channel, going through these films very, very quickly now, with Fast and Furious 6. That was up recently, and very soon will be Furious 7, and going forward with the rest of the films, and yeah, having such a great time with these ones, and yeah, Fast 5 though, something else, really stunning film, a mind-blowing film to watch. And then we have Carriers with Chris Pine from 2009, and yeah, we have it's the one that I didn't really take to too much actually, and I was quite interested to see what it's like, just to check it out, and it was the one that overall just didn't really do it for me, and there was some interesting moments, especially at first. I think the first half an hour of the film, I thought it was okay, but it just went downhill, and it was something that just went nowhere really, and wasn't very enjoyable. The characters, the writing, and just the overall tone of this one, and the way the narrative unfolded, it just kind of it wasn't one that lived up to its potential really for me personally. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on Carriers. It wasn't really for me overall. And then we have, of course, The Crazies. Now this is of course a remake, of a George A. Romero film, and this is one that I did enjoy actually. Timothy Olyphant, in the lead role in this one, and I think he was really good in this film. Really enjoyed Timothy Olyphant, and I thought it was just a one that, especially in the first half, I just thought it was really, really kind of peaceful, and just the way the town was portrayed, and I think yeah, it did definitely go downhill drastically, but I think that first kind of half, especially the first 30-40 minutes, was really enjoyable, and it was just the one that I did as well. I saw this as a kid, and I saw it once, of love film back in the day, and something that I always remembered seeing this many years ago, and always wanted to return to it, and to see what it was like, and see what I'd think of it, if it would grow on me perhaps, but yeah, it's a one that I think it did kind of go off the rails, and that's really the reason why I was thinking, yeah, there was something about it that it wasn't too great, from my memory, and that's what it is really. It just, the second half just for me personally just loses it, and yeah, it's one that doesn't really come together, in the way it could have done. But yeah, definitely, a film that I enjoyed overall still, but just not one that I was huge on personally. And then we have Mike Leigh's Abigail's Party, and yeah, this is the one that I saw many times as a kid, and I saw it again a few years ago, 2022, and I saw it, yeah, again, obviously in March, to rewatch this, and it's the one that I just love so much. It's definitely one of the very, very best, right near the top of the Mike Leigh's for me, and it's just so funny, so kind of, it's got its, kind of a dark edge to it, and and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's just so kind of pleasant, to watch this one, and it's such a kind of relaxing film, a peaceful film in the way it's done, and it's just the way it unfolds as well. At times it's quite masterful, and it's just so good to see this again, and yeah, definitely one of my personal favourites from Mike Leigh. And then we have Rise of the Foot Soldier of Vengeance from 2023, and yeah, it's the one that I've been meaning to check out, and it's the one that obviously I'm a massive fan of the Rise of the Foot Soldier films. Just so funny, so kind of wacky, these films, and this one being the sixth entry, I was interested to see where they would go with it, and here they're making quite a few more as well, upcoming films, that'd be cool. And this one, I don't think it's one of the best personally from the franchise, but it was really solid, and had some really good moments in this one, some really interesting characters, and obviously Pat Tate, once again, it's just such a great character, in these films. Craig Fairbrass, once again, he's just great in this. Yeah, definitely some moments I'm looking back on that are really funny and kind of wacky, but not enough of those moments really for me. It was just more of a one that was a bit more serious, and it wasn't, quite as humorous and kind of enjoyable just overall, in a general sense, as a lot of the other films in the franchise. But definitely a solid film that I'd recommend, kind of watching if you haven't seen this before. And then we have Cocaine Bear by Elizabeth Banks, from 2023. This is a film I was kind of, I was intrigued to eventually see it, and it's the one that I was always going to check out at some point. I thought it'd be quite, wacky and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was. It was actually a really, really enjoyable film. At times, and I think it's definitely a good film, and one where you've got some really funny moments in this, and just the whole kind of adventure of this. It was definitely a really, really enjoyable film, and yeah, I had a good time with this. I would recommend it, and if you've not already seen it, and yeah. Had some parts that are really quite violent and all this, but yeah, it was more of a kind of a wacky film with a kind of comedic tone to it. Really fun film this, really well directed by Elizabeth Banks, and yeah, the acting, as I say, the performances and just the characters, some of them in the film, are just so much fun. So definitely recommend this film if you've not already seen it. And then we have The Sons of Katie Elder by Henry Hathaway, and this is one that I did really enjoy, and reviewed it as well, soon after watching this one on the channel. I had a good time doing that, and obviously a John Wayne film, and he was just great in this film, and just these four brothers, the chemistry, the camaraderie, and some of the funny moments in the film. Yeah, definitely an enjoyable film. Yeah, it went on for a bit too long, this one. I think it's a bit drawn out in places, in a general sense, but overall definitely a solid film that I did enjoy, and I'd highly recommend if you've not already seen this one. So yeah, The Sons of Katie Elder. Then with Cellular from 2004, and it's of course starring Jason Statham, Chris Evans, you got William H. Macy in there as well, and yeah, a really fun film this, and really tense as well, a really thrilling film, and I think this is one that definitely surprised me in places. It was better than I thought it'd be, and I did really enjoy this one. Just the whole kind of again journey of this, the whole narrative, the way it unfolded, and yeah, I just really appreciated this film. Really enjoyed certain elements of this, the performances, and just the way it kind of starts out. It's very different to how it kind of turns out in the end. Really, as I say, surprising film, and yeah, just definitely one that I'd recommend as well. I might talk about this at some point, in the future. On the channel. But yeah, for now, Cellular, definitely a fun film, and one that I did really enjoy, and just a very peaceful film as well as a really intense, thrilling film from the get-go. And then with Wheelman, with Frank Grillo from 2017, and this is the one that I wanted to check out, and it looked quite interesting, and definitely a fan of Frank Grillo as well. Really enjoy him, in loads of films and shows and stuff. So yeah, just interested to see this one, and it's definitely one that did turn out to be pretty solid, and I thought it was very kind of intense film at times, and quite bizarre in places, definitely, and it's one that there's some things that it was a bit too kind of not necessarily convoluted, but it's maybe a bit confusing at times, here and there kind of thing. I had to really know what was going on, the motivations, all this kind of stuff, certain things. But yeah, definitely a film that I did really enjoy, and I think some of the final act as well, actually, in a sense, it was very different, but it still, it was, in a sense, some of the kind of highlights of the film. So yeah, overall, definitely, a really cool film, set over the course of, obviously, one night as well, kind of thing. So definitely want to appreciate, and yeah, would highly recommend Wheelman as well, Frank Grillo. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And next up, we have a film that I saw many, many times as a kid, and that is, of course, Small Soldiers. So yeah, this one, wow, just so nostalgic, and I enjoy this one so much, and it's the one that's just so much fun, and it's just a wacky film, but just so inspiring as well in places, and kind of epic, and the way this is made, so unique and creative, and just the cast in this film as well, all-star cast really, and I think just to see this again, it was just so kind of special, because I hadn't seen it in so many years, and it was a one that I saw loads as a kid, and just never got around to kind of rewatching this one, but yeah, just so cool, this one, and it's just the use of music in this, and all these epic moments, and just the comedy and the charm to this. A really magical film at times. But yeah, so cool to go back to this one, and yeah, definitely a film we'll be talking about on the channel pretty soon. I'll be reviewing this for more in-depth thoughts. You can look out for that one. But yeah, just really enjoy this film, and definitely a very nostalgic film for me as well. I saw this so many times as a kid, and yeah, it's just really funny film, and got some really hilarious moments, but also really epic and creative and cool. The sci-fi elements to this, and yeah, just so much fun, and it was really cool to see this again. So look out for my review on this one if you want my more in-depth thoughts on it. But yeah, really enjoy this film, and I highly recommend Small Soldiers. And the day after that, I saw Police Story 2, and this is the one that I did really enjoy as well. And going through the Police Story films with Jackie Chan, and it's the one that, yeah, I did find it to be at times more enjoyable than the first film, and you know, I think at times, yeah, I did prefer the first one as well. You know, so it was quite interesting. But yeah, definitely a fun film. You know, some great action, of course. Jackie Chan, you know, great as always. And you know, I did review this film as well, you know, on the channel, and also Super Cop. And yeah, just really had a fun time going through these films and discussing them on the channel. And yeah, you can check out obviously my reviews, you know, of these films. And then we have Appaloosa the day after that. You know, modern Western film, of course, with Ed Harris. He directed this one as well, and it's just a really enjoyable film here. Viggo Mortensen, as well as Renee Zellweger in this film. So really great cast. Jeremy Irons in there, you know, as this villain, and it's just, yeah, as a Western film, modern Western, it was very surprising. It was better than I thought it'd be. Although I was really, you know, interested to see this one. You see Ed Harris directing it and all this kind of stuff, and it was definitely intriguing. It did also, despite that, surpass my expectations, and I really recommend this one. Definitely not, you know, seen as many different, you know, kind of modern Western films. Really recommend this one. So yeah, definitely a film that I really enjoyed. And then a film that I'd been meaning to watch for many years, and you know, I'd never actually seen any of this at all at any point, and that is of course True Romance. So yeah, a film that I did, you know, definitely really enjoy this one, and you know, I think it was just so, you know, it had some great moments and just so enjoyable, you know, throughout really, and it had some, you know, I think at the first, you know, it was definitely something where I thought the film was going in a certain direction where I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much, and in a sense, you know, with the first act, maybe that was definitely, yeah, my favourite, you know, in a sense, consistently. But then again, you know, the way it actually went, it was something where, you know, actually, yeah, perhaps, you know, the film did get better in many ways, you know, as it went along. So it's the one that, you know, overall though, you know, really enjoy it, and some great moments, and obviously a Tarantino screenplay, famously, and he didn't direct this one. Tony Scott directed it, and in terms of Tony Scott, you know, I think actually it's probably, you know, overall my favourite, you know, so far, you know, the Tony Scott films. You know, I do, you know, really enjoy Top Gun as well. But you know, I think this one, yeah, definitely, you know, a really good film, and one that had some, you know, just great moments. The way it was shot as well, and just the characters, a lot of the characters in this. Yeah, just the performances as well. You know, Patricia Arquette and Christian Slater especially. You know, just so great in this film, and yeah, really enjoyed this one. So yeah, True Romance. Finally seeing this one, you know, of course, and yeah, it's the one that I did really enjoy overall. And then we've quite a lot of Lauren Hardy's as well. You know, I started watching, you know, a lot more frequently. You know, kind of into April kind of thing, because I had, you know, a couple of months where I wasn't really watching as much. But yeah, Men O' War was one of those films, and this is a classic Lauren Hardy short for me. And you know, I think as well, Hog Wild is another one that I saw, you know, around this time, and that's the one I absolutely love. And you know, other Lauren Hardy's that I saw as well, you know, include The Life Ghost, Their First Mistake. You've got Any Old Ports, and yeah, you know, The Finishing Touch as well. These are the other ones that I saw in April, and again, many more in May that I'll talk about, you know, when I get to the next film look update video. But yeah, just so many great ones that I've been seeing, and you know, there's quite a few as well, Lauren Hardy shorts and, you know, features that I have never seen before. So you know, it's just really cool. Looking forward to all those ones as well. And yeah, just as I say, loads of reviews will come very soon for these films again. But yeah, been having such a great time watching, you know, loads of these Lauren Hardys again. And then we have Fast and Furious 6, and it's the one that I did review, you know, very recently. This is the last, most recent kind of video that I put up on the channel, and yeah, returning obviously, as I say, to these reviews of the Fast and Furious films. And you know, Fast and Furious 6, you know, really enjoyable film, and yeah, just definitely more in-depth thoughts, you know, for this film on my review. But you know, in terms of just a general kind of, you know, first kind of, you know, watch of this film, you know, just definitely one that, you know, I think from Fast 5, you know, there's definitely, you know, in a sense, a spree, you know, of just, you know, a high point really, I think, for the franchise. And Fast and Furious 6, it's definitely no exception to that. You know, I think it's just so well made, and so much fun. Just the action in this film is so great, and you know, I think the characters, and obviously it was the last, obviously, kind of Fast and Furious film that was released during Paul Walker's lifetime. You know, and you know, it's just, yeah, it's definitely something to appreciate, you know, in that sense. And you know, he was so great, you know, in this film, and you know, just as he was in all of these ones. And you know, I think just him and Vin Diesel in this, it's just, yeah, it's great stuff, and really moving as well, you know, in places. And yeah, it's just overall such an enjoyable film. And yeah, again, in-depth thoughts, you know, are on my review that I put up very recently on the channel, so you can check out that. And yeah, it'd be great to hear your thoughts on all these films as well, you know, the Fast and Furious films. Then we have Venom: The Last Dance, and you know, this is quite an interesting film. You know, I think in terms of the other Venom films, you know, I did enjoy both of them, and you know, I think this one yeah, it's the worst one overall, and I think it's the one that I did enjoy some elements more than maybe the second film, the first film, but overall, it's just definitely not as enjoyable, and it's a different tone to it really, and it's a bit drawn out in places. Some of the characters and locations as well, are brought in this film wasn't really big on, but Tom Hardy in this film once again really enjoyable, and I think just it has its funny moments, and it has some epic moments as well, and towards the final act there's some really cool set pieces. So yeah, it's definitely an okay film, just not one I was huge on, and not as enjoyable overall as the other two for me personally. And then we have Paddington in Peru, of course, a film that came out very recently, and it's the one that and seeing the first and second films, in this kind of it's Paddington films, this trilogy really, I think, they're so enjoyable, and especially the second film, that was just the one that I absolutely loved. Paddington Peru, I think it's not as good as the second film, but it's on par, I think, with the first actually, and really enjoyable, and the locations, just the whole kind of adventure feel of this, it's really nice, and I think seeing the characters as well, from the other two films, it was really cool to see how where they were in this film in that sense, and how they kind of interact in a different setting. That's one of the things that I was picking up on. Just how it's away from the other settings of the other films, and out in Peru, of course, and it was a really wacky adventure. Some parts of it could have been better, I think. Overall, it was a good film though. Definitely a really nice, charming film, and really cute at times as well. And then we have The Spy Next Door from 2010, of course, a Jackie Chan film that I will be, kind of talking about on the channel actually, again, when I can get to this one. But yeah, it's the one that's very, very, very basic, a very generic film really, overall. It's just in the way it's made and all this kind of stuff. But despite that, I did enjoy this one. I do think Jackie Chan elevated this one, and I think just the chemistry it has as well, some of the characters was really nice, and kind of this a nice family film. That's what it is. And yeah, as I say, it is very basic, and not much going on really in this one. There's some parts that are not not too great at all, kind of thing. At first, especially the way it was kind of set up, but I think as it went on, I was enjoying it a bit more, and yeah, overall, definitely an enjoyable film. Just not one of it's not a kind of a Jackie Chan film that I think is a great film or anything like that. It's not one of his best films, but it's still an enjoyable one. And Jackie Chan in this film was highly enjoyable as always. So yeah, that was really cool to see, and I will be reviewing this one fairly soon on the channel. Then we have a rewatch of Borat, and it's one that I absolutely love, and it's definitely one of my favourite modern comedies. And I've talked about this a few times on the channel. I've watched it, rewatched it of course quite a few times over the years. But yeah, Borat is definitely among my favourite modern comedies, and it's just so well done, and it's absolutely hilarious from start to finish. Sacha Baron, it's just legendary in this film, and yeah, it's definitely I definitely prefer this to the second the sequel of course, and it's definitely my favourite overall kind of Sacha Baron comedy film that he's kind of been involved in, and yeah, it's so great, and I think it's just so unique, and yeah, what a film this is, Borat, and it was great to see this again. So yeah, seen it many, many times over the years, obviously. And yeah, day after that was Furious 7, and this is the one that is just wow. This was a special one as well, and I think, as I say, a spree of films there, from Fast 5, for quite a bit really for me personally. And yeah, I think Furious 7 is definitely one of the highlights, of this franchise. So yeah, we'll be talking about that, as well, on the channel very soon, and it's a one that I can't wait to discuss, in depth as well, and it's a really wonderful film in places as well. So yeah, Furious 7. And then we have Mr. Harrigan's Phone, and this is the one that, of course, a Stephen King adaptation, and this is the one, yeah, I think, from 2022, and it's the one that I think is definitely a really enjoyable film in places. I think that first half of the film was, at times, some really good moments here, and I thought it was just so well done, the way it was kind of progressing, and time was passing as well, and it was just really, really, enjoyable there, and it didn't, live up to that in the second half, a bit less than the second half kind of thing, and I think the final act went in places that I wasn't big on, so it really brought the film down. But I think Donald Sutherland in this film, he was just great, and I think the performances really, across the board, really good, and just a very, relaxing, peaceful film again, and I think Stephen King adaptations, there's always, something really in Stephen King stories where just something about the atmosphere and the way all the characters are, and just the way the stories kind of progress. I think there's something really special about that, even when there's not maybe one of the best Stephen King adaptations, there's always something, to kind of take, from that. So yeah, really enjoyable film in places. Overall, definitely a solid film, and at times, very good. So I definitely recommend this one, and it was really nice to see, as always, kind of a Stephen King adaptation. And then we have 3:10 to Yuma from '57, and this is a Western that I was really interested in seeing, and I'd never seen this before, and yeah, it's the one where I have seen the remake as well, and I do enjoy both of these films. But the original, yeah, definitely one that I think at times was a bit kind of hard going. Is it one that where I wasn't really as interested in at times, as other parts of the film. But I think there were some scenes in this that were great, and really had me invested, and then it kind of went off again. It was the one that was kind of going in between of kind of really liking and not so much enjoying. So quite an interesting film, in the way it kind of flowed, I think, and just the way we have some, I think, drawn out sequences as well, really at times, personally. So yeah, overall, definitely a good, solid film. Just not one of my personal favourite kind of westerns. So one that I thought the visuals at times were great, and some of the performances were great, and I think some of the characters and the way things did develop with these characters. But there was just something about this where it was very inconsistent, and it did kind of lose my interest at times, my investment, overall in the film. But that's just the way it is, and yeah, it's the one that overall, in a sense, didn't love this one, but I definitely enjoyed it, and I think yeah, it was a one where, as I say, I was just not invested in at times, and it was quite kind of confusing in places as well, convoluted at times, and just not as invested in places as other parts of the film. And then we have The Fate of the Furious, the 8th film in the Fast and Furious franchise, and this one I think definitely exceeded my expectations, and this was way better than I thought it would be, and I was very hyped to see this. But yeah, this is one that I think definitely a really, really enjoyable film as well, and it's the one that was just so great at times with the action, and I think just again the tone, the characters, the comedy of this. Some dark parts of the film that I wasn't huge on, but I'll talk about that in my review. But overall, definitely a film that once again this high point of the Fast and Furious films. At this stage, it was just something else, and I think just seeing a lot of these characters and the interactions. Once again, Tyrese Gibson, a highlight of these films, and yeah, it's just really, really epic in places. This one, so we'll be talking about that as well on the channel. But for now, yeah, definitely really enjoyed The Fate of the Furious. And then we have Grown Ups, another Mike Leigh film. This is the one that I'd never actually seen before, from 1980, and it's the one that we saw this, and first time round. It was a fairly short film, and yeah, it's the one that have Leslie Manville, Phil Davies in there, and yeah, it's definitely a really nice film. This one, very kind of contained, focused film, and just in this kind of I sit around this house, and it's kind of these neighbours, of course, of the couple. Leslie Manville plays, and Phil Davies, and yeah, it's a really funny film at times, and yeah, just a really well-made film, and definitely very memorable film in places, and some really kind of memorable moments and wacky parts of the film. But definitely, yeah, a really solid film, and another highly enjoyable film from Mike Leigh. And the last film of April to mention is Hard Boiled. Now, this is of course a John Woo film, and it's a one that I was really hyped to see, and I love John Woo. Face Off is one of my absolute favourite action films, and Broken Arrow, and just Mission Impossible 2. I personally really do love that film. I know it's definitely not one of the more popular Mission Impossible films. I love that film, and I've watched it many, many times as a kid, and it's just the one that always makes me kind of laugh and smile when I think about it. John Woo is a legend to me in that sense, and yeah, seeing Hard Boiled, it's the one that wasn't a film that I was huge on. It's a one that where I think there's definitely moments in this. The action, it's just stunning at times, and I think the opening as well, it really set a really kind of unique tone, and that whole kind of action set piece and the way I was invested in the film, intrigued at first. That was something that where I wasn't ever as invested throughout the rest of the film, and it's the one that I just don't think it was something where I was huge on this film overall. It's just with the tone of it, the kind of the plot was one of the main things as well. The whole plot and some of the characters, I just was never really that invested in, and it's just one of those that even though there was some great action, because I was just so kind of uninvested in parts of the film with the narrative and the way it was kind of unfolding and revealing itself, it didn't really matter that it was this great kind of flourish of action set pieces. I think it wasn't enough for me to overall love the film in that sense. I loved the action, but didn't love at all the plots and some of the characters and just the way the film flowed. It was a bit hard going at times, but overall definitely enjoyed the film. It's just not one that I loved or anything like that. But yeah, it had some stunning action. Obviously, some of the performances were great in this, and yeah, it's cool to finally see this. As a kid, I did play Stranglehold, which is a kind of sequel to this video game, sequel to this film Hard Boiled, of course. That's something where, yeah, it was really cool to see this film as well in that sense, but also just in general, massive John Woo fan, to finally check this one out. So definitely enjoyed the film, just not one of my favourite, kind of John Woo films. And then with my favourite first watches of March and April, and for March, it was an easy pick, and for me it had to be Fast Five. Now this film is just so great, and it's the one that just blew me away. I'm always thinking on this one, just of how great this one was, and it's just a legendary film, of action, and just for this franchise, as I've said, it's just, it changed things up, and it done it in such a way. It was still, just like Fast and Furious always was, but it's not, kind of about the street racing as much, and we have more the heist films, and but taking the characters, kind of I love and know, from the other films, and elevating them and just putting them together in such a way where it just is at times, masterful, this film, and it's just such a great film that is easily my favourite first watch of March. Cannot stress enough how much I love this film, and it just blew me away, and it done everything for me really, and just as an action film, it's definitely one of my favourite, kind of modern action films, and it's just on my favourite films list as well, somewhere on the list. I don't feel where, but yeah, it's just such a great film. But yeah, as I say, I reviewed that film, on the channel in the last few months, and that's the one that, if you want my full thoughts, you can check out that. But yeah, absolutely love this film. It's just so great, and it does just give me that energy every time I think about this one. And me watching that film, I was just blown away by it. So yeah, easily my favourite of March, and very first watch of April had to be once again another Fast and Furious film, and that was of course Furious 7. Now this one once again as well, it's another high point, as I've said, and it's just a real special film in places, and everything they done for Paul Walker in this film, involving him, and just the kind of tribute and all this kind of stuff was just so stunning, and just seeing all these characters once again, just in general, returning for this one, and all the stunts, the action to this, the tone, the vibe of it, and it just, yeah, as I say, that emotional aspect of the film though really does elevate it in places, and it's just a film that it has the comedy, it has the action, the charm, it has the kind of actually really interesting plot as well of what they're doing with this, and something that really was a surprising plot, this one, and I think all of that, and the performances, and obviously the tribute and the emotional aspect of the film involving Paul Walker, and all the other cast members as well, the other characters. It's just something that I absolutely loved. But yeah, definitely one of the high points of the franchise, as I say, and real just fun film, this fun ride, the epic kind of nature of it, and as I say, the emotional, spiritual parts of this film. It's just definitely one of my favourites in the franchise, and easily, once again, my favourite of April. But yeah, that's it for now. What do you think on these films? We're great to hear in the comments your thoughts on these, your favourite first watches as well, and just your thoughts on all the films, as many as you want in the video, and also what you've been watching. It'd be great to hear, what you've been watching, rewatching over the last few months. Always great to do that, and to celebrate cinema. So yes, as always, take care, and thanks for watching.